I always liked the idea to start my own company since I started to do science. And I was always looking for the right opportunity. And I think that when I invented the fiber top technology, I immediately realized it could have been used for many applications. And I said, voila, this is the opportunity to start my own company. And then I started working on it.
Optics11 introduces the ZonaSense technology, a high-tech optical fiber sensing technology that enables high-quality monitoring of acoustic vibrations.
The whole idea is to take optical fibers, like the fibers used in telecommunication, and then use them as a platform to fabricate on top of a fiber small mechanical devices that move in response to whatever you want to measure, say a change in temperature, vibrations, accelerations, and so on and so forth. And you use the light that you couple from the other side of the fiber, goes through the fibers, reaches the end of the fiber where you have fabricated this little machine, and you look how much light the light will actually strike onto this little machine, come back into the fiber, reach back you, and by looking at how much light is coming back, with some clever trick you can actually say how much this little machine has moved for, and therefore detect that change in temperature or the vibration or the acoustic sound or whatever.
The ZonaSense uses interferometry to define discrete measurement zones between gratings in the fiber. Within these zones, the ZonaSense observes minute changes in length of the fiber. The zones become the sensing elements of the system, which can be applied in many ways to solve measurement challenges.
We started the company together with a serial entrepreneur, and that was actually a very important thing to do. The story is very long. We started in 2006 with the idea. It took me quite a bit alone in my research group to bring the idea to a readiness level that could be somehow marketable. And that happened roughly in 2010, and we had a discussion with a couple of potential investors, and eventually a third one came on board, Hans Brouwer, a serial entrepreneur, as I was saying, and I liked him, he liked me, and we decided to start it. And we started on a shoestring, only with his capital and a little bit of my capital. And we went on with that capital and revenues until 2016. What I like of Hans is that even though he is a businessman, he's really he pays attention also to aspects that other businessmen maybe, at least in the common thinking, do not pay attention to. So he's a gentleman. He does keep in mind the fact that it's not only about money, and on this we actually resonate. We both think that a company is not only about money, and this allowed us to create a group that think in that way. And the group is the real strength of Optics11. We all are focused on delivering good equipment and while staying, let's say, in a team that likes to work with each other. For roughly 1.5 years, we were only the two of us, and using a bit of resources here and there, we were able to create a minimum viable product and start selling this minimum viable product to see how people wanted to use it, in which field this technology could really make the difference. Because as a matter of fact, it was a technology looking for a market, because in principle you can measure everything, but now where can you find really traction? Then we found it with the idea. So basically the winning idea was to make this instrument that measure mechanical properties of small samples, and we saw that this was very much an instrument requested from people who do preclinical research, so to measure how stiff a biological tissue may be after resection, or a tissue engineered tissue may be. So we developed that machine, and with that machine we started to have a significant revenue. To develop that machine, we hired our first employee, who is now the CEO of the company, and then a second one immediately after, who is the CTO, former PhD student of mine, and these 4 people really were the real 4 columns of the company. After that, we started in around 2015 to hire more people. I think we ended up in 2015 to have something like nearly 10 people. Then in 2016 we had venture capital investment, and this allowed us to go, I think, from 14 to 20 something. We have a couple of openings now, so we should be 22 or something. So you could see that at the beginning it was very much Hans and myself, and even when the first 2 people joined, my involvement was extremely significant, especially for the sales, because the authority that I had in the field was the main selling point for selling the instrument. I was the one who was going to the researchers and say, look, with my equipment, I can do these kind of things, and you can do too. And this was the convincing argument for the first 4 or 5 sales. After a while, the company started to grow, and we had to go from a sort of research-based approach to a more professional approach. I mean, it was good that more people were coming in. As people came in, I did feel the fact that more ideas were coming out, and it was the right thing to let those ideas develop further. And I clearly saw, as time was passing by, that my role was more distant, if you wish. And I think it's a healthy thing in general, that the inventor takes a little bit of distance after a while, because the risk, in my opinion, if the inventor does not that, the risk is that the inventor will strongly condition the future of the company with his own or her own bias. So for me, fiber top technology is the technology Optics11 should develop. But if another technology comes in, well, we should be ready to take it over. And if I'd been in the decision-making process, I may make some mistake in the decision-making process. One thing that we can really say is that it was a very organic growth. I mean, we didn't overspend. We were always on a shoestring, very careful on what we were spending and what we were getting back. And that is what really made us really organically grow. So, and as the company was growing, I was taking a little bit more distance. Hans Brouwer as well is now not as involved as he was in the beginning. And that's actually really in the strategy that we chose from the beginning. Get the capital only after you have proved that you have something to sell. The reason is that now you get capital in without selling too much of the shares. And indeed, basically, between Hans Brouwer, myself, and the CEO, we still have control of the company. And we still own a big chunk of the company. Why? Because actually we already demonstrated that there was a product to sell. So the transition was quite smooth. Of course, the investor came in, but also the investor resonated well with our way of doing business. For instance, they were very much favorable in sending some of our management people to courses to learn how to scale up. And they're taking it quite from distant with due control. So I think there is good harmony also with the investors, and that's very important. I remember that in 2007 maybe, I was invited to give a guest lecture, and I was introduced as a scientist and entrepreneur. And I immediately say, no, I'm not an entrepreneur. But actually I am, and I'm still more a scientist than an entrepreneur. I'm very high risk aversion, so I'm a very conservative entrepreneur. I also failed twice, meaning after Optics11, I tried to start 2 other small initiatives, I wouldn't call them companies, and it didn't go well. The project was killed before even it could start. I'm actually after another idea in this moment, so I'm becoming a serial entrepreneur, and but I also like to use my experience to help young students. So, and that's also is a bit of an entrepreneurial attitude, because I'm trying to help students to become more entrepreneurial, and because they are younger, they have less responsibility maybe towards family and so on and so forth. They really have a chance in the moment of their life when they are a Bachelor or Master student to take this leap and try to start their own company. And I want to help them to see this opportunity.